We live in a world where everything can be referenced online. Imagine if the greatest moments in our sport were never filmed. Eurodisc continues to do what it takes to make free-to-watch live streams a reality. Let's leave nothing to the imagination. We'll consume the action live, and we'll support those that help to make it happen. If it wasn't streamed, it didn't happen. Eurodisc.
What a grab! Oh my! Somehow they do it! Come on, Brad!
Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me?
Oh my goodness, a leg-out catch block. Put it deep, and that's another high risk.
And it's smacked away and picked up off the wobble.
Back in play here at the European Youth Ultimate Championships 2023. The first pool has just gone up for a rematch on our live stream between Great Britain and Germany. GB, though, with the early turnover. Emily Tran unable to connect with the reset pass and immediately taking advantage of the German counter-attack, feisty as it gets. Wagner reeling in the first goal of this game in about 30 seconds. Myself, Hannah Pendlebury, alongside Christina Obermeier. And what are we expecting from these two teams, Christina?
A tight fight for sure. They have played each other before. They have played on a live stream, and it was so intense. It was very even in some way and very messy in some other way. It was 4 breaks for one team, then the other conquered back, getting those 4 breaks back. And I think we're going to have the same thing again, because both these teams really, really want to win.
Oh, absolutely. They are both hungry for blocks and for success. We saw the German women in a really great game against the Czech Republic yesterday on the live stream. Of course, that game didn't unfortunately have any meaning for the German position. They took the 7th spot in the one pool to rule them all here at the Youth European Ultimate Championships. A 7-team strong division, and they unfortunately haven't had a win yet thus far in this tournament, but some really close losses.
Indeed, some universe point losses. And we'll see if they can add a win to their tournament.
Well, it's getting us started. Much better execution in the initial stages for GB on this time. Great reaching grab for Finn Clark. They connect with a plump. Passes off to Bond. Clark again, seeking opportunities. Tries to initiate the reset, but there is absolutely zero movement, and a pounce from the defense. Going to snap the disc away.
Hammocking there with that block. Maybe even baiting that a little bit, but
well, that one's never going to come back in bounds, so GB will reset pretty much where the disc went out in the first place, all the way to the bank. Brought in by Isabel White, no, not Isabel Whitehall. The number 28 is the 38. That's Alice Hodges. sporting some very fetching GB flag K-tape. GB more or less still in fine fettle injury-wise in this tournament. Got the full squad. But is that just a straight slip out the box? It is indeed. GB with just a couple of unfortunate miscues in the early stages. Can the Germans make anything after a bit of a more slow start this time? Into the deep space goes Backinger, one of the stats leaders for Germany women here at this tournament. Finds a space underneath instead. Should be replaced by double fives, the 55 of Elizabeth Maher. Now upline to Paul Meyer. Good connections. This is just slow and steady offense from the Germans and opens up Hermicking in the end zone. A second break on the bounce for the Germans. Of course, we've seen these two teams respond point for point, break for break, but this is not an ideal start for Great Britain.
Absolutely not. And we talked to the German coach beforehand, and what she said was, we want to start differently. We want to start with fire and give it our all this game, and that's what they're doing right now. They created break opportunities again and again early, and the difference between the team today and what the team looked like yesterday at night was definitely the way they're executing it on these break opportunities.
Well, it's a mix of experience for both teams. Certainly some very well-tooled individuals who've been playing for, well into the single-digit numbers in their playing careers. But some newbies as well, some university players certainly for GB's squad. So maybe a little bit of nerves coming in. It is difficult to beat the same team twice in a row, especially after a universe point finish. But this is dreamy stuff for the Germans. Just the one turnover so far in the game, and that was off that big shot from Sarah Hermicking.
Hermicking, you're going to see a lot of her out of her.
Absolutely.
Talismanic for the German side, has been playing for forever. Has a sister and a mom who are also active players.
Indeed. Shout out to Claudia and Anya. I'm sure they'll be watching the live stream from back home. We did see Claudia in the chat and the live stream game yesterday against Czech Republic, but of course there is a natural advantage for Team Germany in this game because they did not have a game this morning, whereas GB of course had their own fight against the Czech Republic, a rematch from pool stages that they got a little bit shut out of. It's a solid swinging though around the backspace. Hicks seeking opportunity, single-handed grab, nice and easy for Molly Williams. Thinks about the dad backhand into the cup. Goes for the hammer over the top, but it's going to be taken away by the jaws of the cup. Luxemburger denying that one. GB have definitely been asked by their coaches to take on the shots. That one not quite working out. Instead, Luxemburger, far sideline, squeaks it up the line to Schutz, who shoots and scores in the end zone, connecting with Binching Zhang for the goal, and that's 3 unanswered. Surely a timeout call now by GB.
Yeah, and we already see the coach pointing towards it. A good decision and a great start for that German team. Everyone seems to be very dialed in and ready to go, and they know exactly what to do.
It does seem to be a little bit of a slow start for Great Britain. They've had some straight up stone cold drops and some difficult ones. It would have been nice to see GB trying to help each other out by crushing through that cup, coming from behind the disc, requiring the defense to maintain respectful spacing. But they're going to have a little talk about it. Kulikovskaya calling the timeout, but we'll be right back to see if GB can respond and get any breaks of their own in a few minutes.
We live in a world where everything can be referenced online. Imagine if the greatest moments in our sport were never filmed. Eurodisc continues to do what it takes to make free-to-watch live streams a reality. Let's leave nothing to the imagination. We'll consume the action live. And we'll support those that helped to make it happen. If it wasn't streamed, it didn't happen. Eurodisc.
What a grab! Oh my God! How they do it! Come on, Brett! Get there. Yes, he will.
The lovely did. First half here, women's placement games at the European Youth Ultimate Championships 2023 under the hot Padova sun here in Italy, and we have GB trailing 3 breaks to nothing against the Germans, who they defeated earlier on in the championship. On the live stream, Christina Obermeier, I mean, as a German speaker, you might favor a little bit of the Germans here, but what's really been the crucial thing?
Don't worry about it. I'm Austrian. I don't dislike and I don't particularly favor Germany. I'm up for a close game, and I think so. What I just thought in my head was, it's interesting that GB was shut down by the Czechs 15-4, and Germany played Universe point yesterday.
Well, it's been a real strange affair for this German women's team. They have not managed to get themselves a single solitary win yet far in the division, but as you say, Christina, they've played so many of the great teams really close, just showing the depth of their talent. But we're seeing the depth of this much more flush roster of great British athletes trying to just punch one in. Thornton on the far sideline, seeking options, goes for it at beautiful lefty flick, but it's dropped in the end zone. That was such a nice throw, Christina. I'm really sad not to see that one come off.
Indeed, that throw just arcing around everybody in so much space. 2 defenders that did not quite communicate with each other and bounces off of the hands. And Germany with another break opportunity.
Well, Comfort with a nice up-line gainer. Finally Stoffels. Reset round to Schutz. Schutz opens up a big old backhand to Hermeking, but even the rapid dashing legs of Zella Hermeking cannot connect with that. 170 centimeters off her frame. And GB will get the disc back with another opportunity after that missed.
Great flow from Germany, and that shot just nearly perfect, but a little too zippy. If it would have held it just a little bit in the end zone, it would have been perfect. But that one back in the hands of GB.
Well, jink move round the back from Tran, but great save on a slightly quirky pass. GB really trying to just dance in front of the mark and seeing themselves come unstuck. Hodges streaking up line.
That upline shot a little too zippy, and Hodges not. I don't think the throw-in was sure what direction they were going, and that just created a bit of confusion.
But can there be a redemption story? No, there cannot. Anna Comfort unable to connect with that one. And another opportunity for Great Britain. They've got the full stretch to go though. Big lefty backhand, that's surely going to sail out of bounds on the far sideline, but it does gain good yards for Great Britain. I don't mind that at all. Trying to just relieve the pressure is Hodges, I think.
It is pretty windy as well, and that is downfield for the downwind for the GB side.
Are we sure it's windy?
The flags indicate that.
Well, some of the flags are barely moving. I don't know. I would say it's gusting occasionally, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a super windy game in my. Certainly not for the conditions we've seen out here on the field. But that one is going to be beautifully taken away by a great read from Naomi Bond. Can GB do anything with it? They really do. Just need to punch one in the scorecard. Good up line work. Tran looking for the give-go action. But Hodges just tries to be more stoic about things. Now has Bond, who got that good reception. Ah, and there's so much pressure layered onto that one. A little bit of end zone eyes, perhaps.
I mean, Schutz was off of her defender. She tried to lay out to redeem herself, and she does, but that's all. Like, that throw was very low and probably was a very, very tough catch to make. If it didn't hit the ground earlier, it would have been a very tough low grab for the receiver. And that is the first multiple turnover point we're seeing here.
So German action underneath to Wolfangel. A little lost for options, but Hermit King deliver, always there, and that's a really lovely fading throw around the back of the mark. Schutz is responsible for giving the disc back to GB a couple times now on some big lustrous throws, so trying to holster, just streaking up the line, and it's a smackdown for Molly McCall. Call and response. Now it'll be the turn of Whitehall to pick up. Run down from Bond. Oh, and that is surely a sharpshooter position. This time it's two players catching it together. Wilson alongside the number 96, Sarah Thornton. But they do manage to convert it. I think probably I'd give that one to Thornton, don't you, Christina? Or are you giving it to Wilson on the stats board?
I'm not so sure. Actually, I think that was pretty much simultaneous. Although, like, while this is a very cute thing to see, my professional opinion of it would be that is a bit dangerous if two people actually like catch it at the same time and try to catch it. See, that was pretty much simultaneous in my eyes. You could have macked it as well, and you don't want to do that. There's been so many lost opportunities for GB. Just communicate better. We've seen that before where one just macked it out the hands of the other.
Well, I'm going to change my mind. I'm with you. I think we give that one to Saskia Wilson because she was the one going up with two hands, had the position, had the poise, almost like, as you say, almost could have been a defensive play, friendly fire. But either way, GB hold on to the disc and they put their first point on the board, took them 4 goes at it.
And a very high turned over point.
Yep, 8 in that one. Taking the record from that second point where we had 3. But either way, great work from Naomi Bond. Rescued that high shot to get GB the disc back with a fabulous read. So a positive stat line. 2+, 1-. We don't hate to see it.
No, that's fine. It's just like the stats are really helpful, and I love to give credit where credit is due, but sometimes I feel like the players that work in the backfield and do some hockey assists and other very important parts of the game and don't show up at the stats line. Yeah, you gotta just have them in the back of your mind.
Well, we need a little crew around Elia Girardin, who's been doing a fantastic job of scorekeeping and stats delivering throughout the course of this tournament. He's working every single game, but if you'd like him to have a collection of individuals helping him out to give us all of the full information and notifying us as to who those great cogs are, you can consider becoming a patron as the Germans race towards the end zone. Laura delivers to the back corner. That's a really lovely execution on the throw, finding Luca Fass. And that will be a German offensive hole, the first of the game, because everything else has been breaks.
4-1 there, stretching out their lead. And I actually think that was Jana Mons with the collection. 17-year-old out of Hamburg, probably playing with Seagulls. Yeah, playing with Seagulls, and has some high school experience in Canada.
Well, there you go. Yep, exactly right as you are. It is indeed Mons. But talking about that previous game, talk about a difference maker. So, of course, the last time these two teams met, it was GB who went up 4-0. So almost a mirror image, but not quite. But certainly GB will know from experience that a big scoreline deficit to start a game doesn't mean anything when you've got 100-minute time slots to work with.
For me, this is the last time I'm going to mention it, I think. But what should happen now to compare it, properly compare it to the last game, is 3 breaks by GB, because that's what we had, a mirror image last time around. We'll see if that is granted to us, or if this time around the Germans just prepared a little better in the overall scheme of things.
Well, I think the only trouble is, of course, that when you have played a European Championship for the other games, because of course that was still really early stages in the tournament, it does make a big old difference just being able to develop together as a team. Bond with a great reception underneath it, doesn't quite manage the catch, but ends up bobbling it forward and macking it on to Sarah Thornton. Clearly the name of the game is for GB to have 2 players under anything slightly lofty here, if they can. Bond now seeking options, with the look fly bucket hat being sort of pulled up cowgirl style. Oh, a hammer over the top, why not? But that's not going to be able to be run down by the potential target, Charlotte Wolf, in the end zone.
That took quite something for GB to advance like that. And a beautiful hammer, actually a zippy one, and I'm a big fan of the zippy hammer over the floaty arcing one. Look at that one.
Bit of York style ultimate for you, of course, a club known for success in the indoors surface back home. Big shout out to all of the York City crew, and of course York Manasee Academy. Of course, this GB program, so lucky to have 3 big school, but that is a fantastic block for GB. Bond again getting the disc back. A real weapon out here.
License to kill.
Well, hopefully no actual killing, but definitely that's a killer move. Just straight up line work for Charlotte Wolf, getting the GB score. It's a hold, but it will help along the way.
So much needed hold, because you got to hold to get some breaks first, right? And then we'll see what else the GB side can do. They've gotten it back on a great defensive effort there, and that is only one of many, probably, for the rest of the game. The lefty puts it just into space for Wolf, and I've been very impressed with Wolf's overall performance this week. I've seen her play on the live stream twice, and she's been really running discs down and putting on so much pressure for everyone. For the opposing teams, of course.
Well, Charlotte Wolf been playing for 5 years, coming out of, I sort of minced my words a little bit, but there are 3 sort of school programs that really do deliver a lot of these junior athletes. Flux, Air Badgers, and of course up in York, which you already mentioned. But so Wolf, an Exeter City player, she's been playing for 5 years. She really enjoys helping younger players to develop their skills and teaching them how to play Ultimate. Big shout out to all of the Wolf family, who I'm sure will be watching this stream. And if you are watching, then do let us know where you're tuning in from and who you're supporting. Amelia Durbin says 4-1, the most dangerous scoreline. So we'll see what GB's D-line can do. They've not had a look in thus far against the Germans O-line. It'll be Sarah Hermicking to bring the disc in bounds with the pull. That's brick pull. Total passes completed so far, of course, by GB's D-line. 0 of their 43 total, you see that? Not sure where it's showing 34. Our stats getting a bit confused through, but it is hot for our tech out here under the sun in Padova. So a zone from GB. Immediate moves to the far sideline into the hands of Vidmeier. Hermicking crashing through, gaining about a metre or so. Schutzfield. That one a little bit too much air underneath it. There's a piece that just denies the deep receiver coming underneath. Bennett Lockie with the block.
Camfoot wanted to make that heroic, but couldn't quite leave her feet, and GB are off to the races for some break opportunities of their own.
Not close enough for Camfoot, and that's a lovely leading roll curve flick. Now, GB, aren't they going to get a little bit too hasty again as they reach towards the end zone? There is the reset available for Hicks. It's found late on in the stall count, but connects easily. Another lovely leading flick. Hodges this time opens up the lefty, but it's a little bit softer than it needs to be, and Britta Backinger denies the score for Molly Williams.
Yeah, it was thrown a little late, and also I think Williams wanted to score and that disc to float around. Of course, in these situations, you got to attack the disc as well. Your priority shouldn't be scoring, but just keeping the disc alive.
Well, it's a very tight mark for Alice Hodges, but Sarah Hermicking easily found up the line. Trying double coverage the wing space, but happy to take the slicing bits, just playing in this narrow side of the field. A good connection now up line, and the reception in the end zone. Lovely flow from the Germans. I'm not sure exactly where the wing was in the zone that was supposed to be covering this near side of the field, Christina, but clearly busy elsewhere.
Indeed, the Germans had a lot of players on that near side, but this forcing sideline zone just didn't put enough pressure on in general. There was one wing that was running after, and by the time they got there, the continuation was already in the end zone. I would have loved to see other players protect that open side, because it's still the open side, even if we're playing, if the players are playing zone.
Absolutely.
You're still forcing that way.
One of the whole points of playing that zone is actually trying to get your opponents to take on the more difficult shot, which of course is throwing over the cop to the other side of the pitch. And at that point, if it's a longer throw, it means it's going to be in the air more, so your young athletes are able to go and run it down and put pressure on the receptions on the far side.
On the other side, that's how GB actually got their first break, right? By overshooting the intended player, and then the D just fingertips on it, but that was enough. So it's a mixture of, you know, putting pressure and also giving some throws that are maybe a little more risky, but players are like, I can do that, and then it does not work out, and defense is just sits and waits for it to be in their hands.
Well, there is the occasional sort of caress of wind here on field 3, but generally speaking, it's ideal conditions for throwing overheads, throwing high releases, and crushing the zone by just going over the top of it. So of course, we saw that big old hammer from Naomi Bond that unfortunately didn't quite connect in the end zone, but just showing us that GB are capable of achieving those upside down throws. Bond now with disc in hand, goes to the fake first, has the reset for Whitehall. Now up line, Lou to Bond. Nice grab from Lou just to keep that one in the red box. GB looking a little bit static upfield, but it's finding some flow now. Nicolucci. Oh, but that one just redeemed by Naomi Bond. Heads up stuff from Great Britain.
Such great reaction out of Bond, going to ground and getting that disc.
Louth now. Sort of looking around in front of her. Oh, and that's a lovely continuation. The flop after the catch, just to make sure. Zero concern for the body shown by Molly McCall. That's a goal to add to her block for this game.
Germany playing shadow defense after that zone, and so they were containing quite well, but GB managed to work it from one side to the other and gaining meters every single pass. And the time they transitioned into matchup defense, they were just running after the GB players. One throw a bit behind, but saved heroically by Bond, and then it was all breaking, getting a continuation, and then that beautiful score in the end zone with so much space.
Well, it's not a break for Great Britain, but a bit of a kind of almost breakdancing moves for the dancer herself. In fact, it's the reason why Molly McCall started playing Ultimate in her early stages of her career. She's only been playing for 10 months. Started playing in October 2022, currently at Oxford University. She got rejected from the university dance team, decided to try her hand at Ultimate, and it sends a big shout out to Serena Donalek, one of her coaches at the university team and teammates at the club level. So she inspires her and helps her to become the best player she can possibly be. And I know that Serena will massively appreciate that shout out. She's a wonderful player herself and so exceptionally mentally tough.
Of course, mental toughness, very important, and we've had a talk with the mental coach of all of GB, and we also talked to the head coach here for this GB junior side about the way they've been training the mentality and with some visualization.
Indeed, led by Katie Flight, one of the assisting coaches for the GB women's team, alongside Harry Mason, Zenwu, and also, of course, Ola Kulikowska, the lead coach for this women's side. But again, Germany happy to play in these tiny slicey bits of the end zone. Massive pressure being applied from Molly Williams, but she was just a little bit too far away to really deny Sarah Hermicking that goal on the front corner. But that's the kind of pressure person defense starts to build over the course of a game, Christina, that can really start to change the shape of things.
It does seem like Hermicking excels in these high pressure situations. It's not always that you can see someone actually putting that much offensive pressure on a player like Hermicking, and that the GB matchup was probably picked out very wisely, but she didn't have any trouble getting free up the line, and then the whole team trusts her enough to make the big catches and to get the distance situation in any situations, even leaving her feet to making sure that one is redeemed, and jumped in with a bit of a fancy footwork, I'm gonna call it.
Well, as you say, a really good matchup for Sarah Hermicking. She's been playing for 3 years, has Hermicking. She works in a gym, and she's actually a sports science student. Of course, has picked up some international club experience for the likes of 3SB. Williams, on the other hand, has been playing for 4 years over in Derby. She's played for Flux, one of the programs that we mentioned. She also plays county level hockey, so a really high level athlete. Because I don't know if you know much about field hockey in the UK, and certainly playing for your county, she's no slouch.
To be fair, I don't know anything about field hockey at all, and
It involves sticks.
yeah, that much I'm aware of, but only from ice hockey.
And the European Masters Championships got interrupted occasionally by the under-24s division when pools would accidentally go onto the Water Astro back in Nottingham, which was very, very funny throughout the course of the week. But nothing funny about this game. Some quirks at the beginning for GB, but that's a chuck it and hope. Bond with the spin around in the end zone, flying through the air, but unable to connect with it. And an opportunity for the Germans once again. Magdalena Schütz.
I haven't seen the GB side go on a vertical structure, go off a vertical structure that often, and you can see why a very static stack that gives Germany the disc.
They make quick work of this one. Great communication downfield. Schütz collects. Hastoffels trying to go for the one-on-one isolation. Zhang now is going to chase that one down and make the collection at the last moment. You can see the dismay on the face of Daisy Liu. Afterwards, Zhang had absolutely ripped open the space. Beautiful stuff from the number 19.
Indeed, such pursuit. She was starting even behind Schütz, running up the line, seeing that she could even go further, and Schütz putting that into space. You see the setup. Schütz thinks about putting it to Stoffels, but deciding against it, and Zhang running, slashing by her, and that disc dropped in the back. Such a dime. We've seen Germany's score in that corner quite a bit yesterday. Schütz always distributing these fancy discs, and Zhang once or twice being the receiver on the other hand. She's from China, is a high school student still, of course, age 17, and lives near Frankfurt am Main, plays for Eintracht Frankfurt.
Indeed, the indoor German championships in the mixed division and league champions as well. Although she says even though her family are extremely supportive of her ultimate playing career, they've not watched any of her live streams yet, so hopefully this tournament will change that. Hello to all of the Zhang family. I'm sure you're very, very proud indeed. Just say the Hurricanes, the first club team she played for, which I think is a fantastic club name.
Another interesting fact is that the communication with the coaches is harder than actually playing for her personally, because German is such a difficult language, and we had a talk about that yesterday.
We did.
Saying that German in general is hard to learn because there are so many rules, but once you've gotten all the rules, it's easier to apply them.
But that's not an easy catch, and it doesn't connect, unfortunately, with the GB player. Abby Patterson unable to get her paws around that one, and Sarah Hermicking will survey an exceptionally short field. Surely this for another German break. Oh, what a lovely isolation play in front for Comfort. Comfort back to Hermicking, two of the top of Germany's roster coming out and doing damage. That's the break for the Germans. 8 threes, that's 2 breaks in a row.
And the break for a half, a 3-point run at the beginning of the game, a 3-point run for them to close out the half in such an amazing form and fashion.
Well, we've seen the talent on display for this Germans women's side. They haven't managed to get a solitary victory during the course of this tournament. It is always a challenge to beat the same team twice. GB, of course, having got that one win early stages against the Germans, which knocked them into the 7th place. But clearly a bit of a point to prove for Hermicking and co. That's another to her stats tally for the tournament and this game. 3 goals and 1 block. The number 4 of Germany. 4 is the number that the GB have yet to post on the scoreboard. We're going to take a break very shortly for half-time alongside the athletes under the hot sun here at the European Youth Ultimate Championships. But can GB turn the ship around? You'll have to find out after these messages. Half-time here at the European Youth Ultimate Championships 2023. Women's division action in front of us as the Germans have absolutely stormed past Great Britain to try and get their first win of the championship. Christina Obermeier, what's been the key for the Germans so far in this game?
I think it's pretty clear. The 5 breaks on their tally and the many break opportunities, break chances rather, 11 break chances compared to 1. The clean holds 2 to 1. That is pretty even, but there hasn't been too many offensive possessions for Germany, as they're also gonna come out here on offense in the second half and get the we like to say 2 for none, but it's actually gonna be a 4 for none. Is that correct?
Well, I'm looking at my stat sheet, and I think actually there is an inaccuracy in our stats graphic there, because there have been 3 offensive points played by the Germans, and 2 of them were whistle clean. So apologies to, hold on, I'm looking at the wrong side. There we go. Goodness gracious me. It's been a long, hot day. What do we have in the heat break? Did any of the coaches and staff here at the tournament go and play a game of Ultimate, Christina?
Yep. Yeah, we did. No, there was a coaches game going on with 40 participants, over 40 actually, and it was a bit of a struggle to get the right amount of people on the lawn, let's put it that way. Some coaches apparently cannot count, or were just too eager to play and were like, let's play with 8 people. And yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I think the heat impacted some people a little bit, including myself. I don't think I've ever had so many drops in a single game.
Well, I mean, it's always an interesting thing when you come to play a tournament. Of course, the athletes actually playing here at the European Youth Ultimate Championships are getting a heat break in the midsection of the day. They're not being required to play under the sun in the kind of, early afternoon, that real burn window, which I'm sure many of the GB athletes will be pleased with, because of course we're not used to this kind of weather back home. It's been a very dry May and June, and 3 weeks ago I was told by our wonderful scorekeeper Elliot that actually it was even hotter. It was reaching up towards 40 degrees Celsius in the midsection of the day, just to give you an indication of how oppressive the heat can be here in Italy. But we are delighted to see the sun. Of course, getting plenty of vitamin D cheers you up, especially if you've had a difficult game. And this at the moment is all about how GB can raise their chins and sort of see themselves back in. We know that all of these teams are capable of pulling off huge comebacks, because that's what you get in the youth divisions. Anything could happen, Christina, and I would be here for it.
Yeah, we'll stream it live. We will be here for it. I don't think anyone will want to see GB go down like that. Not themselves, not us in the booth, and no one at home. Not even the Germans probably. Of course, it feels great to have a commanding lead and hold this, but also we want to see a game. They're here to play tight games, and I'm sure GB can give it to them. And I hope that they
have before, haven't they? That's the beautiful thing about this being a rematch, is that we've seen these 2 teams tussle all the way to Universe Point. So hopefully GB can indeed pull it out the bag. Although when we were talking to the coaches of the German women earlier, they were saying they would love a bit of a bigger scoreline difference between the 2. But of course, we just want live stream close games.
Indeed. I do think they want to have that bigger difference, because they know the capability of the German team, and I think they've really regretted them going down 4 points early, and they've managed that one. I think I've said it before, the 3-point run in the beginning of the game really set a tone for the mentality of the German players who were down.
Absolutely, and for GB across their sort of other games in this tournament, it's either been slow starts or really hot starts, and then just finding it difficult to maintain or raise their energy. But coming out into the second half on defense, a break here would be really bolstering for the mentality of the GB athletes. And there is a fantastic block run through defense from Charlotte Wolf. It's picking up Abby Patterson. Can GB do anything with it? It's a bit of a slow one to get going, but finds the reset for Alice Hodges. Back to Patterson. Hodges streaking across in front. That play very reminiscent of German senior women's play. Williams now on the far sideline. Shoots into the end zone, and it's the grab and the break for Great Britain. Naomi Bond with a casual one-hand catch just in front of the jaws of the defender. Well, that could change the fate here, do you think, Christina?
I don't think so. It could be, but I think It's really tough to say. It was very clean, and the difference here is that GB now have found a bit more structure, but it was still a lot of people running, and that disc caught under so much pressure over the defender in Spiegel, who couldn't have done anything else because there is a height mismatch, and that's all that was dividing those players. Just the head of Bond over the one of Spiegel, catching that disc in the end zone.
Yeah, a real trust ball being shot up by Molly Williams there, the 15-year-old. So we already talked about her, why she's such a rapid athlete. But that point was all about Charlotte Wolf's run-through block. So
Charlotte Wolf running deep, expecting that deep shot as well. I think she was a little frustrated that no one picked up the disc immediately and put it deep, but I actually like the option of cooling it down, making sure that offense works out for them instead of hucking and hoping a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, a conversion of the defensive opportunity for GB. They haven't had too many look-ins so far in this game. Just that one previous turnover from the German O-line. Can they get themselves another? Oh, what a fantastic redemption save. The layout from Ilan Widmeyer. Back to Hermeking. The ever safe hands. Widmeyer again. Good in-stride catch for Comfort. The handlers just playing it between themselves. Bit of a dominator set. Hermeking again. Oh, that's a lovely inside laser and finds the target directly in the chest. Is that Stoffels? No, it's not.
Bachinger, I think, with the catch there. And I love the dominator set, giving a lot of room to the speedy players that are Comfort and Hermeking alongside Widmeyer with that impeccable layout. We see that point again, and it was Elisabeth Maurer actually.
Yeah, we're both wrong.
Who got that score. Of course, a great cut from the back of the stack into the front, something that I think is very hard to defend. And then just around the goal line scores as well. As I was saying earlier, Hermeking, Comfort and Widmeyer taking that space for the dominator set makes a lot of sense, because we've seen again and again that they can outrun any GB defender, to be fair, and giving them space and getting that safe pass in is a very good idea and just the right move to make if you're Germany, if you're a fan of the Germans.
Well, a huge stats line there for Hermeking. No surprise. We've seen her absolutely rinsing the board for the Germans during the course of this tournament. Coming into this game, she had a total of 14 stats, 9 assists and 5 goals. Although nowhere near to the other targets. Magdalena Schutz, 17 assists, 3 goals, and 12 assists, 8 goals for Anna Comfort. So some real big distributors. But of course, I think Hermeking's probably been playing a little bit more on the D-line, because she is a player that is really just so good at shutting down the options for the opposition. But that is going to be an overshot on the far sideline, going out of bounds.
Stoffel's actually getting a hand on that and making sure it's only staying in the out of bounds region of that grass field. And Schütz is going to try and get another stat point on her board.
It's an easy one for Fuss. Makes no fuss about it. A little bit of double cutting in the lanes causes the reset and to have to go to Spiegel. Now Schütz, a lovely leader for Hermeking. Has a think about it, but not quite enough separation. But that is beautiful stuff from Magdalena Schütz. Back to Hermeking surely, but Tram there underneath it. Doesn't quite make the position though, so there is no jump to try and stop the ball from going back to Sarah Hermeking.
Of course, that helped defender in. Tran ran in, had a bit of a different angle towards that disc, and it was picture perfectly put into the line of cutting for Hermeking. Tran with the valiant effort. She was there first as well, but she would have had to jump super high or back paddle into Hermicking to even get a chance for the disc. Schutz, you see her wind up big. Hermicking slashing by her, just distributed that pass to Schutz as well, and the two of them just working up that line. Trenin was her first, but again, not in the greatest of positions, but valiant effort to actually peel off of her defender from the middle of the pitch, seeing that shot is gonna go off.
It's always sad when you know that the disc is coming. You can see what's about to happen, but you just don't quite get the read to stop it. But Tran in the right space, just not quite the perfect position to deny the Germans the score, and that will be another break to add to their tally, back with a lead of 5 breaks.
10-4 for Germany. Not quite what I expected from this game, but it does seem like a very clean game to be fair. GB has very good options as well, and they're executing, and we can see a clear game plan. Just the difference is in Germany, who are not giving the disc back again, but converting these kind of situations. And I wanna say there is a bit of luck in there as well.
Well, they say you have to be good to be lucky. Certainly some very lengthy points the last time these two teams met. Most notably this point that went 13 and 50 seconds, so 13, nearly 14-minute long point. Still not defeating some of the records we've seen under 20s play over the course of the years this division's been running. But a long one nonetheless, so they're able to grind out some really lovely vision to find Daisy Liu on the far sideline. Now up line to Hodges. Dishes through to Clark. They go back to Liu. Oh, that's an absolute cannon of a backhand, and it just about misses the target. Was there a piece on that from the defender?
Definitely. Anna Comfort put 3 super quick steps in and pushed that disc out the side. We'll have a replay of that one. Anna Comfort just making those 2 steps that you can see and actually brushing it out the side. That was super important for her to try and get there first.
A nice idea, but GB unable to complete in the end zone. Thornton with just the clap of doom, but can she get there? No, not quite enough to stop Comfort on the far sideline. Again, the Germans really happy to display these really squeaky, far, small channels, but Britta Backinger unable to make the play to rescue that one. Just thrown almost directly at her ankles. Hammer out to try and best the zone. There are hands on it from Clark, but unfortunately they don't make the catch. Widmeyer giving and going alongside Comfort. Now around to Hermicking. Oh, that's surely a run through D. Again, the speed coming through from Charlotte Wolf.
I voiced my admiration for her playing before, and I'm going to say that again. Just such composure on her, running through there and getting it as well.
Clark had plenty of room, but the rest of the team just trying to filter through now. Germans reapplying the zone. Wolf available on this near sideline. Has to take a little bit of distance backwards. But a nice arcing flick over the top. Really fabulous execution and makes positive yards. Liu shooting for the front cone, and again the Germans denying it once more. Anna Comfort just saying, no, thank you very much. You'll have to try a different way to score.
GB have tried again and again to get the better of Comfort, but that does not quite work out. I would love to see them work from one side to the other a little more, as these shots in the small spaces are what Germany are executing with perfection. So don't try to play Germany's game with them, but try to play your own game and not be fazed by the thing Germany throws at you.
Absolutely. Well, we know from the warm-up that many of these GB athletes are very capable of throwing hammers and scoobas overhead. Maybe that would have been a better option to try and hit that same space, but Sarah Hermicking on the far sideline in stride. Comfort streaking away, going to go for the inside break once more, and again it's denied by Charlotte Wolf. Wolf and Comfort are so pivotal in this point. Match coverage now, the name of the day. There'll be a rundown required. Bashinger putting so much pressure on the back of Sarah Thornton, who looked like she had good position, but unfortunately at the last minute it just curved a little bit too far to the left.
Bashinger wasn't even the defensive matchup, but runs with the play and gets her arms, her hand actually on that disc for her arms stretched out.
Well, Bashinger working in the isolation space alongside Daisy Lou. You can see the height difference between those two athletes. Now back to Hermaking. Shaking to the far side, into the palms of Wands. Comfort now has two options available in the deep space. That's going to require a big old rundown, but a pick call earlier on in the play will surely send it back. Sarah Thornton saying that those two players ended up in a little bit of a collision, which had allowed Schutzwild to be so free.
Mona Schutzwild, of course, with that score. She was in acres of space, very open, suspiciously open, one would say. Of course, shout out to her sister, Izzy, who plays in Austria, plays for Insiders, I believe, and now lives in Graz. Well, he got her sister to start playing Frisbee.
So back in the hands of Comfort. As Hermaking lurking in the near space. Really fantastic hand coverage, and it's going to stop any movement upfield. Malhert can't do anything about it.
And a shoe came off by a GB player, quickly sliding it back on and continuing the point as if nothing happened. Thornton.
Sliders for cleats or cleats for sliders?
Should have bought some Tokai cleats instead.
Oh, well, unable to collect Freya Laus on the far sideline. That just flobbles out of bounds with the missed clap catch. And another catching error chalked on the board for GB. And that is a big difference maker for them. And this is not the form we've seen them execute on, so it's very strange. Perhaps a little bit of tiredness after that game against the Czech early on in the day. But that's another miscue in this game, but this time at German hands. Hodges didn't like that easy reset across to Lauf. That one's going to be shot directly into the floor, though. I can see what they were trying to do, and of course connecting with Charlotte Wolf seems like a decent option. But again, GB just getting a bit hasty.
You can hit her in the end zone any time, but you got to give her a chance to get it. Probably in the air, I would back Charlotte Wolf over almost everyone, but that one was super low, and I'm 100% sure not intended that way.
Underneath to Bashinger. Getting squeezed on the far sideline. Wolf putting on so much pressure. Doesn't even need to get the run-through block this time. Just whispering in the ear of Wittmeier. Can they do anything with it? It's a tight mark trying to pin to the far sideline. A little bit of air for Alice Hodges to make her way through. Lou going for the around, that one a little bit undercooked, but just about hangs on to it with the fingertips and puts a skyrocket up. Wolf underneath and makes the catch despite the height difference from the defense, and a tambourine celebration, no less. Pat yourself on the back, Charlotte Wolf. That was a fantastic point for you.
I want to say I called that. I just said put it anywhere near height for her to get it, and she will. And I mean, that's exactly what she did. Everyone from the German side running towards that. We see all the players coming together, but Wolf in the perfect position to get that disc. The German player, Wittmeier, probably even had her fingertips on that disc first, but Wolf in the slight better position to make the catch.
Well, the power of the Wolf and the Badger combining, the claws high in the end zone. Really just ripping that disc down beautifully. Well, I feel like if you're GB at this moment, playing a bit of a power line to try and grab yourself a break, which would be much needed. They still trail by 5 breaks and 5 points, 10-5. The Germans have built a wall around them, but can they do anything to bring it back? 6 turnovers apiece in that previous point.
these multiple turnover points often determine the continuation of the game. The one team that makes these points in the end often goes off with better energy, and we'll see if this is the case here. I think especially if on the junior level, it's so much about the composure of the team, the way the communication works out for players and coaching staffs and your leaders on the squads. And in these situations, these points can really make a big difference. We'll see if that will be the case and GB can feed off of that energy, or if Germany is resilient enough to stay with the composure they've shown for most of this game.
Well, Russell with the pull, GB chasing it down. The centering pass goes to Luca Fass anyway. Fass back to Schütz. Nice active mark switching around though. That one, the change of force is a change of luck for the Germans. That one overshoots. It may well be another tussly point. Russell picks up. There's an option downfield for Patterson. Lines up twice. Chooses the easy one just in front to Williams. Molly Williams with no reset, has to shoot forward to Tran. Oh, and it's going to be the run-up line, and what a snatch for Molly Williams at the very edge of her reach. Well, that line works out, and it has a clean break against the Germans. Well, that's number one, and a timeout being called by the German coaches. No surprise.
Absolutely, a very good idea, in my opinion, to stop that bleeding early and quickly, get a new 7 out there and make them get that point. Ideally, it would be a clean for them.
Well, GB needs to try and maintain the energy that they've just injected into themselves during this timeout. They'll rely on DJ Izzy to spin up some tunes, the number 22, Izzy Stevens, but certainly both teams still trying to fight for every single point. We'll see what will happen. Can GB bring it back? The German lead still 10-6.
We live in a world where everything can be referenced online. Imagine if the greatest moments in our sport were never filmed. Eurodisc continues to do what it takes to make free-to-watch live streams a reality. Let's leave nothing to the imagination. We'll consume the action live, and we'll support those that help to make it happen. If it wasn't streamed, it didn't happen. Eurodisc.
What a grab! Oh my, somehow they do it!
To the support of the sideline. German athletes trying to get some shade on the far side. The GB athletes out and getting vocal to try and generate some pressure. Bashinger, though, under hot attack from the person coverage. Just pops it in the letterbox to the reaching arm of Anna Comfort, and that was a rapid response after the timeout to stop the break train from getting rolling for GB.
Great management of the game by the German coaches, stopping the bleeding quickly. And what a way to score. Bachinga in a lot of pressure from the defense, but gets the score, gets that catch in front of the end zone and puts it in for the score. Camford getting another one on her tally. See a replay of that long shot under so much pressure by the GB defense. And then a quick one pops in. (11-6) the score. Germany up 4 breaks.
But GB have started to emerge in this second half. They have managed to put some pressure on. Certainly, it's been a real big effort from players like Naomi Bond, Charlotte Wolf. And some real stoic moves from the back set. Certainly Daisy Liu, Alice Hodges, just really anchoring GB's offense when they need them to.
I might have figured out what the difference in that game is. I see Flora Hart not on the pitch.
Indeed, she's got a hamstring injury, has the Badger. She's been playing for 5 years, but yeah, she's on the sidelines with a bucket hat, just bringing some vibes to her team, lots of sideline support. But of course, it's been a very different story for the under-20 Open team for Great Britain, who've had injuries all over the shop. But still managing to make their way through to the championship bracket and getting the bye round effectively in quarterfinals, because of course the Swiss, having picked up 2 of the Danish athletes, which we massively respect them for doing, unable to advance any further. That's a lovely shot from Danielle Russell into the waiting pause of Chloe Bennett-Lockie. Again, flat as a pancake backhand. Same athlete being found upfield. Bennett-Lockie now looking a little bit lost for options. The call from the sideline saying, Chloe, throw a hammer. But it's all about these backhands. That one, though, a little bit too obvious on the third shot of the same throw. Rona Michler, coming through and getting the interruption deep. There's going to be a lot for Sarah Hermicking, though, to try and rescue Michler. Only saw it at the last moment. So Daniel Russell, she's going to go for another picture-perfect backhand, or is it going to be an around forehand break? Indeed, it is that backhand up line to Naomi Bond. First player to throw that overhead in this game. This time it's an around reach. What a snag for Russell. Single hand turns the face away to avoid the contact. Tram now. And that's a lovely lead into the path of Naomi Bond. Another to add to the tally for the number 7 for Great Britain.
Quite well positioned now. The GB side have figured out how to space their stack and getting single clear cuts in that second offensive possession. The first one, of course, deed by Michler because there was someone in the vicinity and she peeled off and ran through that disc, but the second time just more clinical with it. And of course Russell had a big part of that, distributing this left and right, and then Bond in the perfect continuation cut as we see it here. Outstretched arms.
Well, we talked about the lovely backhands of Russell during this point, but actually that release from Emily Tram was also absolutely gorgeous. A fling player, University of Nottingham, has represented Great Britain for a number of times. This is her 3rd cap. Started back with the under-17s in Wrocław, and of course represented at World Junior Ultimate Championships, the Joint Juniors, that same location in 2022.
That was a great event just after COVID. We talked to the German coach about that as well, saying it was a bit of a similar route for them last year around, and they'd be happy to close the tournament off with some on a positive note. I think they're doing pretty well so far.
Yeah, it looks like we might see Germany finally break the curse here. Of course, this is for the 5 to 7 placement bracket. So this 7-team strong division. It's a little round robin at the bottom. Of course, this game ongoing. And there's the matches up between Sweden and Germany and GB and Sweden tomorrow. But that is a lovely hold onto the disc on the far sideline. Malva pops back to Widmeyer. Shoots into the path of Hermaking, but that one is a little bit of a bridge too far for the number 4, whose legs must be pretty tired at this stage. It's a nice idea of that inside backhand, but just too far.
Maybe it was tiredness, maybe also a bit late, and Hermaking didn't expect that shot going off on the inside channel. I would have loved to see her take the around shot instead.
So Wolf will be around. Great patience there and poise from Golby to make sure that stays in GB hands. The redemption upfield, Molly Williams coming through after the overshot on the reset pass. One-handed grab for Patterson. Things getting a little bit quiet, but now underneath, it's McCall. The Oxford athlete pops it in front for Patterson. This time it's a clap catch. Thinks about the big one across, and it's Wolf at the front cone who gets the break for Great Britain. Well. It might be starting to peck away at the lead and the spirits of Team Germany, but I'm sure they're going to have a plenty good response in the next point, Christina.
Indeed, we're 3-1 in terms of breaking that second half. Of course, GB opened to get open that half off up with a break, and then 2 others after holding 1 each. And yeah, that is just very good work for the GB side. Such happy faces on the sideline, celebrations. And it seems to be another timeout as players are huddling together.
Yeah, we've talked about a couple of the programs that generate junior players, but actually we would be remiss to not mention the Ninja Frisbees, the school team based over in Birmingham, if I understand correctly. But there's a shout out from Isla Ate. Glad to have all you watching alongside. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, we've only got 19 likes on this game, despite the big watching audience. So feel free to hit that like button. We're going to take a brief break here in the booth. But don't go anywhere. Can GB continue the run of breaks and bring themselves back within touching distance of the Germans? Find out in a few moments.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere. Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Action here, women's division 5-7 placement games, the round robin in this 7-team tournament. Of course, GB looking to try and generate some momentum and a comeback. A second break, or third break in this half, but a second break that generates a timeout call by the German coaches trying to rest their stars. They've pulled lots of duty under the warmth of the Padova sun. Mishra there on your screen, who of course got that big old poach block when GB were coming out on offense, but at the moment it's the players in white who are looking to try and drive a couple more home.
Again, I'm a big fan of taking that time out and making sure the players are just ready to get back out there on to the field and punch that one in, because this is one of the last games and they should enjoy it. And getting into it with the right mentality is something that I think, especially on in the juniors division, is super important.
The pull from Williams, just out of bounds on this near sideline, so Fuss centering to the brick mark. GB choosing not to surround these two split stacks too much. Taking on the matchups, Bond covering Hermaking. I like that as a matchup choice for your person defense. Oh, that is an absolute cannon of a throw, but it's taken away by GB. Williams sneaking through the last gasp and denying the easy score for Germany.
She came from the other side of the pitch, ran through, read the play early, and just slashed through that, pushing that disc out the sideline. We've seen one or the other fancy defense from the German side. Nice to see that GB can play with them now and getting one of their own.
It's a real thing about hockey athletes. They have just really fantastic pitch vision. As you say, Williams coming off, peeling off her matchup and denying the Germans. That's a big old skyrocket of a flick, far side, but easily kept in the bread box by Sarah Thornton. Upline now, snag for Patterson. Good coverage on the underneath cut, but Williams is there on the upline. Second attempt on the catch for Thornton. The lefty dishing now. Will travel there, but moves back for Hodges. Another of these GB lefties. Patterson now, central field position, goes for the blade over the top, and it curves just about in bounds, but it's missed by the receiver. A drop for Sarah Thornton, but up until that point, GB looked so poised on their D-line offense.
That flick going over Stoffels, which is quite a big task because Stoffels is a tall player and a good receiver, able to use that height she has for her. We'll see if Germany can use it as well.
High octane stuff from Great Britain. Couldn't really have asked any more from the thrower. It did hit the hand, but just a bit of unluckiness for GB. But that one is a gift back. The pressure really starting to mount. Fuss unable to connect with the reset swing.
Wild screams by the GB players.
Well, deservedly so. Hodges takes the conservative pass back initially. Williams with the fake throws directly at the knees, and there is the celebration from Great Britain. That is a really meaningful moment. 3 on the bounce. They still trail by 2, but again, they start to claw away at this German lead, and I'm sure they'll have plenty of belief behind themselves.
Of course, all these players are still rather young, and maybe not all of them have played 100-minute games. Usually you see a bit of a dip in energy after some time, and I think it has commenced for the Germans, where they're not so energized, not fighting the way they have in the beginning of that game, and they'll try and get back that energy, that fight that they have in them to give a good game to GB. On the other hand, they are fighting so hard, the GB side, and really making it their game now, especially in that second half, going up 4 breaks to the 2 the Germans got.
Well, I'm really impressed by the mental game of GB. We know they have been coaching their visualization, as led by Katie Flight, who you saw a minute ago, just really enjoying the vibes, sort of dancing around the GB huddle. But in terms of how the difference has been in this game, second half versus first half, the first half there were a lot of just straight up personal errors from the GB side. So for them to now have pulled themselves up, not only to have cleaned up a lot of the work when they're out on offense, but also they are genuinely physically taking the disc away from the Germans. The early stages, the German breaks didn't have to work too hard. They were putting lots of tight pressure on with the zone, but it really was just a case of GB giving the disc away one too many times, whereas now it really is about grinding person coverage and those run-through blocks. I mean, I see lots of red boxes on my stat sheet, and that is what we like to see in any game. So another big pull from Molly Williams. Just going to reach half field. Hung a little bit. So a gift for the Germans to start with. Hermaking looking to take from the far sideline. Look at that for difference. Great chances for the Germans versus GB. Of course, they've converted half. 50% conversion rate for GB's D-line in the second half. Hermiking with the inside shot, up line. Comfort. The very tight mark from Bennett Lockie. Going to shoot in towards the end zone and just about escaping the defender. Britta Backinger again collecting in the end zone. And the camaraderie there, a little cuddle for Abby Patterson. The fair fight won by the offense.
Indeed, and there is a call on the field. Maybe an in or out call or a pick, I'm not so sure. I think Wolf is involved in that, and they're calling it out, I believe.
Well,
you talked about that pole being a gift, and a great gift at that, because every single time the Germans have gotten the disc on that far side, it has always been up the line shot, score.
if I were sort of running the clipboard and coaching for GB, I might try being a little bit flatter or even going for a force middle defense, because there has been a lot of fantastic work. But here we go. That's the replay. So it must be an in and out bounds call because the athletes are coming over. So Backinger and Patterson will have a little look at our replay screen. Difficult to see in the sunny conditions here, but we'll get our replay. So our drone shot. So the players get to see just how cool they are. So that's the moment of the catch, and indeed a whole 2 Frisbee moves inbounds before she beats that line, Christina.
Indeed, that was very clear, but I get the fact that they want to double check, because I wasn't quite sure on the first time we saw that. Of course, I didn't look closely enough either, but that is the one risk you take with going up the line. It's close to the line.
Although we haven't really seen any kind of true out of bounds throws that just have sailed out when they're shooting for those upline passes. Generally speaking, the German forehands have been meeting the mark, except when they get into the end zone. Sometimes the pressure starts to build too much, but a hold. 12-9, the Germans maintain a 3-point lead here over GB. And now we'll pose some questions to the GB offense unit, seeing many of the players coming back on.
You mentioned going force middle, and I think that would be a cool defense to try to step those up the line shots and give them at least one more cut they always have to do. And I find that those up the line shots have been working out very well for Germany, but also they're not really looking into the middle, not looking to break the mark quite as often. So I'm pretty sure the 4-person coaching staff on the GB side have analyzed that as well as we have in the booth. And they're going to try something different. I think you have to shoot all your shots in terms of defense as well as offense, of course. But trying force middle, trying different types of zones will always get the offensive matchup to at least think about what they're doing a little more, which can already lead to drops or miscommunications between players.
So GB with it all still to do, but plenty of time left for it. That one's going to ping, though, off the hands of Charlotte Wolf. Too much mustard on it from Daisy Lou. We'll just readjust her pulled back sleeves. Of course, avoiding the tan line games is a real thing here in Padova. So we've been blessed with fantastic sunshine. Shoots on the far sideline. Sitting in that pivot, looking for a low inside release, but just taking the flat reset to Hermiking. But the drop comes from Wagner.
Closing her hands around the disc, but it just wasn't quite in them yet.
Have to watch it all the way into the strings. That one is going to be a pit call way before anything happened elsewhere. Unfortunately, I don't think, because of the timing of it, that Comfort's going to be able to retract it. But the players, of course, have the ability to overrule if they think it didn't affect.
I do think they will agree that that one did not affect, and it's going to be a turnover in favor of Germany, and a bit of a missed opportunity for GB.
Yeah, just a little bit too hot-headed on the far sideline. Of course, that one would have had to come back if it had connected. But players agreed to retract the call. That one sails very nicely into the hands of Widmeyer. Has the upline opportunity for shoots, but their throw is shut by the defender. Williams now taking on Hermicking, and that one is going to sail past the intended target of Elizabeth Maurer.
The disc always a bit too far out for Maurer, who was running into the other direction.
Streaking through, Wolf out of the stack, the only cut happening for the initiation for GB. Lou is available deep. She wants to take the reset, but she's going to shoot for the end zone immediately. Bond underneath it, but doesn't manage to connect. It looked like that sailed just inches away from her hand. Oh, just about. Didn't quite manage to read the edge on it.
And Widmeyer gets the defense actually reading it perfectly, jumping over everybody else, a bit taller than the rest of them.
Shoots. As the GB defense start to get ever hungrier. That one low for Widmeyer, but all fine. Has Hermicking streaking out line, but there is the defensive play from Williams. Wasn't really an open shot to begin with. Great coverage from the number one. It's going to be Daisy Lou bringing us back into play on the near sideline. That one ripped down by Wolf. Now to Patterson. Wolf again up line. Again with a single-handed snag. A bit of a contact there from Sarah Hermicking, who bails out. The body control there was really fantastic. Only just touches Charlotte Wolf and throws herself on the floor to avoid it. And thankfully comes back up, because that would be a huge loss for the Germans to see Sarah Hermicking unable to come back to play. So Hermicking picks up the mark for Wolf. Pops back to Patterson. Everyone clustering around. Oh, and footwork. The name of the game. The sideline calling it not good, but a pick is going to reel it back. But that was a really nice idea from Naomi Bond.
That was impressive body control. Talk about it from Hermicking. Bond can do that as well.
Bond just 16 years old, so plenty of flexibility in those legs. 173 centimeters tall. Signed up with some friends way back when.
And they're just gonna go back again for whatever reason. I unfortunately didn't see the call. Another pick or a violation because of that pick, and that disc actually sailed out the side, so it would have been a turn, but due to that violation the disc goes back into GB hands just in front of the end zone. Discussion is gonna stop the play for a little longer though. Hermicking, confident, Wolf are arguing altogether.
Well, players on the field will discuss whether or not everyone started at the correct time. Maybe not a clear enough count from the defender checking the disc back in, but we are back in play, and GB immediately shoots the end zone, and it's going to be a drop for Naomi Bond. Unfortunate after that beautiful piece of footwork. Just doesn't quite get the right read on the disc, and Falcon punches it out of the air instead. But a short field could be generated back for GB if they continue to put on the layers of pressure. Schutz striding forth. An immediate deep shot potentially available for Stoffels. Into the middle though, and that is the drop. Hermicking doing everything she can to try and keep possession, but a short field indeed gained for Great Britain. The round is there. Oh my goodness, I thought that was going to be a backhand through traffic to Charlotte Wolf, but Patterson delivering into the letterbox, and that is the hold for Great Britain. They stay within 2 of the Germans, as we see 13 minutes remaining on the game clock.
Another multiple turnover point, not as many turns as the one we saw before, but both of them on GB offense and both of them going to GB as well. And I gotta say, the energy in that second half screams GB. They're just more composed, and even though they have to work super hard and the Germans get it back again and again and again, it seems a bit easier for them right now.
Well, it's definitely not easy for the he's kind of long GB offense points, but it is one of the markers of actually who becomes the overall winner of a game, is who wins those big, long, grindy points. And every one that's gone to multiple turnovers so far, so we've had one with 8 turnovers, one with 12, and that last one with 8 again. Consistently, it has been GB's O-line that's been pushed and tested repeatedly, required to recover, but it has all gone GB's way. So maybe at the close of this game, that will indeed be a look at the ability to the disc and win those long charges. So the GBD line coming out again, hungry and certainly in desperate need of a few more breaks in the last few points, because the Germans are 3 away from their first victory in this championship here in the 5-7 bracket round.
They only hold now, it looks out. But I think GB will do everything to stop that, as the disc is very close to us right here in the booth.
Yeah, nearly caught by camera operator Supreme, Yoel Ben Joseph. Of course, it's nice to get some of our senior athletes coming along into our ULTI.TV crew, normally clipping up some highlight reels. But here in this junior championship, bringing you our coverage. King with a lovely flick across the board, but that is going to sail into the turf. There wasn't a mark on Elizabeth Maurer, but she just didn't quite get the read on it.
Yeah, she wasn't really attacking that disc either, was she? But it has been a long game and a close one at that.
Indeed. Well, GB finding something from the tank, considering they already had a game against the Czech Republic this morning. That's going to require a big old rundown, but it's smacked out of contention by Anna Kampfert. Once more, the 25 for Germany gets a block.
Kampfert's just really exceeding for that German D-line, O-line rather.
Friedmeier looking for King, who's taking up that matchup once more with Wolf. This time, no mistakes from Maurer in plenty of space. Connects with Bashinger. Bashinger, oh my goodness, again GB with the run-through block, the spin move from Molly McCall.
Wolfgang was very open the first time around. That was the second time going up the line, and that one was under close.
But unfortunately, no sliding catch for McCall on that one. She's going to call an injury.
Falling down twice in such a close period of time. Trying to get that disc that was always very low in terms of release point.
She'll be replaced by Abby Patterson. I don't think the Germans choosing to take any substitutions.
Stoffel is coming out.
Oh, there we go.
Instead of Maurer. Stoffel is, of course, part of Werfwölfe in Augsburg. Also a Frisbee kid, I believe.
So the German with the disc, Wolfangel being pinned to the far sideline, squeezes one through, but does not connect with Sarah Hermicking despite the layout bid, which is a little bit too far for her range. So another tussle, this time for the German offense. If GB can come out on top here, it certainly would put them in fine form. Oh, but that is a sneak through response from Anna Kampfert.
Kampfert's stride towards the disc is really impressive, defense and offense alike.
Shot on the far sideline, Hermicking connecting with Stoffels. As I think about it, chooses the reset around. There's no continuation, closed off nicely by the mark. Just grinding towards that front corner. Hermicking looking dangerous, but again, the tightness of the defense denying it. Hermicking just popping out, looking to go for the assist, and it just slices through the hands of Britta Bachinger.
And another injury call for GB. Second player going outside of the field.
Yeah, it looks to be Bennett Lockie. I think.
Eurodisc continues to do what it takes to make free-to-watch live streams a reality. Let's leave nothing to the imagination. We'll consume the action live, and we'll support those that help to make it happen. If it wasn't streamed, it didn't happen. Eurodisc.
What a grab! Oh my! Somehow they do it!
Late stages in the second half here at the European Youth Ultimate Championships 2023, and GB women looking to surmount a huge comeback. The deficit was 6 breaks, 8-3 the score coming out of the first half. Now it's 12-10. And they have the disc after this timeout. And I don't mind it, they did have the full stretch to go, and we're starting from static regardless, Christina. What are your feelings here?
I think it's a well-taken timeout to give these players a breather. We've seen many of them taking on a double duty, going 3 points in a row maybe even, and there have been many points that have lasted rather long. The last one for the GB O-line, of course, but this one, a GB D-line, or Germany O-line point for that matter. And yeah, I quite like the fact that they're just, you know, resetting and making a game plan, at least a point plan, if you want to call it that.
Well, this indeed would be the first real grudge point we've seen when the Germans have the disc in hand to start. Of course, 3 of those 4 breaks for Great Britain have been clean. So clean breaks even, could this be? Put my brain back in gear. But certainly, this one really meaningful in terms of momentum. Slightly late start, a pick call. Wolf will catch it regardless, just came between the 2 players at the back of the stack.
In all love that I'm giving to the way Wolf is playing, she's been causing a lot of those picks as well, running through the stack where maybe a player was in the way as well.
Well, it's a weird contrast to some other sports where actually causing picks is part of the offense. Nearly friendly fire on the up line, but Patterson streaking through from the backspace. Needing a reset now, going for a quirky, curvy flick over the top, but it's taken out of the sky. The height battle, Eva Stoffels denying and getting a couple of extra yards for the Germans, no less. Schutz far sideline for Stoffels. Can GB stifle Stoffels' options? Hermiking. The wind rising, and just the toe drag, but not called in by some of the GB players. Wolf saying that looked out to her. She did have a decent perspective looking at it because Schutz was moving towards her.
Schutz arguing that one of her feet was on the ground, the other one was not, and I bet she also thinks that that one foot that was down actually was down inside the end zone, not in, as we call it.
Well, let's have a look at our drone replay. So right in front of the end zone.
Tough to say.
I'm not going to stick my nose out on that one. However, the players are going to come over and review the VT. So let's see what they think of this. Of course, massive shout out to Nicholas Ho, our wonderful drone operator, the eyes in the skies. get our replays going. Here we are. So there's the catch. Oh, that is very difficult to decipher, isn't it?
I'm gonna stick my nose out and say I think she was in bounds. I think she jumped with that left foot just in time and was in bounds. But
well, it doesn't change the possession. Regardless, it was a valid catch. And the players are going to call it a goal. Saskia Wilson, spirit captain for GB. And Magdalena Schutz just saying, yep, all right then, we'll accept that one. So the long point for the German O-line is going to be held on to.
first time around for them after the timeout that GB took to take a breath and to cook something up, and that worked, but not long enough, so to say, for them to actually get that score in, but rather just a few passes, and then Germany with, again, a touch of luck, but as you pointed out before, the skilled are often also the lucky. It takes skill to have luck, not the other way around.
And that long old point has seen the time expire, so we're going to get either a game to 14 or 15, depending on what happens in this GB offense point. Certainly, I think that last one, they didn't really make too many opportunities of getting close to the scoring end zone, did GB's D-line. Germans just able to apply pressure and recover the point by the skin of their teeth. So, GB with it still left all to do. And they are watering each other with a gardening spray bottle that they've been pumping up. So some English roses, perhaps?
Definitely some flowers that have been... Is it budding? Like if
Blossoming.
Blossoming, thank you. The buds are the closed up flowers.
Indeed. Well, this is the idea of this championship division, isn't it?
Vocabulary lesson for everyone, especially for me.
Indeed. So the early stage of the flower is that the bud grows and then it blossoms into a beautiful flower. And certainly we are seeing plenty of the athletes here at the under-20s level blossoming in terms of their play, their execution. That's what these experiences are all about, is developing the athletes of the future. We're going to see advance into the elder divisions. Russell, the single-handed grab over the head. And a little bit of air underneath it, but an easy jump and reach for Alice Hodges. Cheeky toss pass over the top.
Is that tipped?
No, it was just a bit flobbly wobbly, but meets Whitehall absolutely fine. If anything, I think probably GB have got the confidence at this stage. Oh yes, the scuba grip. But unfortunately, that one's a little bit too low. Needed the eyebrow, the elbow a little bit higher to try and reach Russell in the center pocket. So a rotation through some of the athletes for Germany. Pulling on power lines though. Mischler now up line. It's really lovely form for Schutz again. Just such an anchor in this German side. Now a nice leader, and that one just jumped in bounds. Called good by the sideline, including the GB coach. Luxemburger might have to have a second attempt.
Luxemburger jumping in, and our stats keeper Ilya saying he personally thinks it was not in yet.
Maybe a straddle of the line. Well, either way, the Germans in very dangerous territory. But there is the block generated by Great Britain. And once more, Charlotte Wolf. My goodness, we only have her down as one block, but I think that's got to be about 4 or 5.
Taking on the tall matchup, the height mismatched matchup of Stoffels.
Well, she may be small, but she is mighty, is Charlotte Wolf. She's been 5'3". She may have a couple more inches to go. You never know. She is a youngster. Oh, that is a beautiful lead shot to the soft side of the field for Whitehall. Puts up a skyrocket of a flick, though. And it almost looked like that was a knockdown for a defensive play from Freya Louth. Really unfortunate miss for GB. They're going to have to grind it back again here on their offensive opportunity. Up line, that's going to be a bridge too far to be crossed by Michla.
Just putting that out into space, but not enough love and touch on that disc.
So this, the much needed hold. They have Russell in lots of space on the near sideline, but she's creeping ever closer to the defender. It does go up, and there's the height mismatch there. Foul called, too much touching, says the number 11, Danielle Russell from Yukafas.
I think there definitely was contact in my opinion, but that throw was arcing towards us and then changed path actually into the defender. So it might just have been, the GB player might have just been out of position.
Well, I think that's probably what we'd refer to as a bit of a hospital pass. You know, you're always going to end up with contact, but Ultimate is a non-contact sport. Maybe it's that last hand move there from Fass that swiped a bit too close to Russell's arms. I think that does, for the gesturing here, it does look like that is what the call is, as Molly McCall gives us an action replay of her perspective on that McCall.
Hand signals for an accepted foul, but instead of accepting it right away, they will join us in the replay area.
Indeed, making good use of the media at hand. So let's roll the VT. Yeah, that's it. That's the athletes looking at themselves. So there you do see potential hand swipe contact. So both players, I mean, certainly there was separation. Russell was a step in front of Fass when that disc was sort of coming into land finally. I think Fass was unable to make a play high on it. Did go for the bid, so that swipe through probably did impact Russell's ability to make the underneath catch.
I think the question for me personally is whether that disc would have trailed with a trailing edge gone so far that none of the players actually would have caught it.
Well, we will never know because it's going to go back on the contested foul.
I think that might just be the right solution, as both players have different opinions, and I think that's absolutely fine. I can see both sides of the argument as well, so sending it back just the best outcome for this.
Yeah, there is no shame in sending back. That is what the rules are there for. Goes to the last bit you can agree on. General principle for life as well. The Germans put on that zone again, and there is the turnover. Some might say disc don't lie. Naomi Bond unable to really do anything to magic that one back into Great Britain's hands. Wagner. Again, it's a beautiful upline piece for Schutz. Bond trying to get big and active. Shuffles now. Puts one out in front. Oh, and what a layout bid that was. A gorgeous way to punctuate. And that is a break for the Germans in the last moments. A game to 15 indeed. GB are going to have to pull out something special from the hat if they're going to magic their way through into a victory here.
Schutz was so far away that only a huge jump in front would have saved that disc and also scored the goal for Germany. No respect for her body whatsoever. She takes that leap and gets the score as well. Great layout for her. 14-10, quite a commanding lead for Germany. It felt so much closer most of the game, and I know this is a phrase that players sometimes use to ease out some the opponents after being crushed or actually the better team, but I don't think I could choose a better side watching these games.
Absolutely, yeah. We may well be in the 5-7 bracket, but the action on the field in front of us is hotting up. Of course, your German fans will want to stay glued to our live stream. And of course, coming up next, we'll have quarterfinals between the Germans and the Austrians.
A classic.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a derby at this point. But can Germany women finish out and get their first victory of this championship with defense? We've got a power line out on the field potentially. Indeed, I say power line. To be fair, the D-line holds quite a few of the big athletes for Germans. And we haven't seen Hermaking on the field for a little while. She shades herself from the sun with the disc readying for the pull. And for GB, it is indeed, I believe, a true power line coming out. We've got Williams and Wolf crossing over from the D line. Lou, Bond, Tran, well as Whitehall. I can't quite see who else because the shorts aren't turned the correct way for us, but we'll have to see what is to come in this next point. Can GB keep the game alive? Whitehall to pick us up and get us into play. As Williams in front. A bit late on the attack from the call upfield. Tran underneath instead. Now it's Wolf, who separates herself well from Hermaking, has plenty of room to send it to Bond. Makes the easy catch, doesn't have enough separation downfield for the big shot. It's going to have to look for a reset or an underneath cut. Tran running through, 2 hands high, easy collection. The call upfield, going towards the break side. Now it's Bod to try and redeem the pass that was surely meant for Daisy Lou. GB turnover again on their offense.
It seemed like great flow and composure from that O-line, but that shot just a bit too far. Germany can break to win this game.
Yeah, it's where all those turnovers in the earlier stages are going to start to hurt, but that's a little bit of luck. Wolfangel unable to hold on to it, but there has only been 1 clean hold for the O-line of GB this entire game, so those long old points as they try and grind their way through in the late stages are going to start to catch up with them.
Pick called on the field.
So Wolfangel on the mark. Getting us back under play. It looks like the boots of Lou. And that one just bobbles away from the call on the far sideline.
Neither team managing to complete a pass in this point.
Yeah, very strange indeed. Wildmeyer looking to squeeze it up the line, and it's a drop from Wolfangel again. Well, finally, the pressure from GB squeezing the Germans on that far sideline is starting to pay a couple of dividends. What a snatch high in the air for Charlotte Wolf. Like a little rocket taking off. Picked downfield, unsurprisingly, or foul, sorry. Push-off foul from the stack. McCall getting involved in the action with Anna Comfort.
It just goes back, which makes sense since players had stopped in the stack. Especially the defensive player on Tran, that's why she was so open.
So after seeing both of these opponents get blocks on each other, this point is turning out to be all about the turnovers with the unforced errors. Although we say unforced, of course, it's the pressure of an intense European Championship level game, as well as the intensity of the defense being played by your opposition. Tran trying to squeeze herself towards that far sideline, and it's the drop for McCall. Another spin out of bounds, and that might be an injury. She's gonna have a little think about it. Yeah, looks like the hand signal should be helped up by her coaches.
Glad to see her work off on her own. Maybe just got winded on trying to complete that pass.
So we're going to get 2 replacements. We're going to get Wolfangel coming off to be replaced by Eva Stoffels, and a replacement Saskia Wilson for Molly McCall.
Stoffels is quite an asset to gain for Germany.
Absolutely. I mean, the height alone, but she has been having a fantastic game against this GB side. So this for the victory and the redemption. A bit of revenge against GB, who took that early win with the huge comeback, but it's going to be another block. Can she get the second attempt? Indeed, a second go for the block after nearly macking it into the path of Sarah Hermicking. Doesn't look to catch it, just wants to go towards the end zone, but that one, Molly was not Molly, that was Charlotte Wolf. Not looking for the action in the end zone. She's just like, no, that wasn't what I wanted. So missed opportunity, but a full stretch for the Germans to have to go.
Great look though from Hermicking, actually getting the D, running towards that disc.
Absolutely, she went for the right response. But bests Wolf on the far sideline with a good jig move in front of the disc. That one just about squeezes through to Backinger. Williams with a very flat mark, not massively respecting the around. The flying form of Wolf just misses the disc. Hermicking looking for a bit of action upfield. It's a late stall option. Pick call. Not sure that'll affect. Looks like it must have been retracted, so play on call. Hermicking now streaking up line. Wolf being a little bit left for dust. Applies the mark tight and close and flat. Trying to force the Germans away from these upline options. So maybe a bit of a forced middle action. Nearly goes for the big break around. That one is going to flail out of bounds, though. A great effort at the redemption for Schutzfeld, but GB are going to get the disc back again. Another charge with the full field to advance.
Released that disc a little too early, didn't Wittmeier. And GB will have to work so hard to get ace point on the board.
We are 5 minutes away from the next game slot, supposedly supposed to commence, so that one might have to be a little bit delayed. Williams with a big backhand launch, the players hustling underneath it, and a little spin round with the momentum for Charlotte Wolf will stop her ability to make a recatch off the slap hand to the disc for Sarah Hermicking. You can really tell the energy is slowly sapping out of the athletes on the pitch right now. This is a long old point, folks. We are glad to have you alongside with us. Germany, a little stumble there, but all fine for Mara. Hermicking, jinking up line. Oh, but it's the snatch removal for Charlotte Wolf. Loving the battle between her and Hermicking. It's really fun to watch. High entertainment value. Bond now with a big bomb backhand, and it's going to find Saskia Wilson for the goal for Great Britain. That will take us game to 15. I can't believe it's taken us that long to say. GB 11, 14 for the Germans. And that is number one match point done. But I don't see GB holding off the Germans for the full stretch required, Christina. But anything can happen.
I think anything can happen for sure, and also Germany put a power line out there. They put on Stoffels later, added her to get that break because they had so many chances of it. And I'm looking forward to seeing whether all these players that just played can play again. Hermicking was looking a little tired, but I see her starting out towards the line again. Of course, Schütz and Wagner on that line for sure. Hermicking getting handed a bottle. Just needs a few seconds to calm down, and then she'll be ready to take the field again.
Indeed, and Germany are out of timeouts in this second half. If my understanding is correct, I do believe GB do have one in the pocket if they need it, and they may well, depending on how the next couple of points go.
And I don't want to jinx anything now, but I've seen a quite similar stat line in the senior division. Germany playing Italy in 2019. This is one for the ages. This game will always be brought back out when there's a similar stat line of 14-11 to someone, because in the end, Italy advanced to the semi-finals of the European Ultimate Championship, being down through 4 points.
I remember that game well because I had the absolute undeniable pleasure of commentating on it myself. I tried to lie down in a quiet, dark room for 10 minutes afterwards, but I had to get back in the booth. That was all about a couple of talisman players really rising to the opportunity and challenge, and we're seeing the power line for GB staying out more or less on the field. You've got Bond, you've got Wolf. Who else have we got? Looks to be Thornton there. Williams. Is that Butler? Oh no, it's a 13. That would be Lena Manchorova, who I believe is Bulgarian, if I remember my information correctly. So GB coming out on defense. For the Germans, it's Fuss who's going to field the pull. Herneking, Schutz, Stoffels with the disc. Fancy footwork required a little bit for Schutz. Herneking in isolation, going against Wolf. Now coming through. Wagner towards the end zone. Schutz streaking up line. Stoffels in plenty of space. Luxemburger as well. A little bit of a trot through. Massive pressure from Williams, but doesn't quite get the hand on it. That's going to be goal for Germany. It's Wagner to finish us off. And the Germans close the door on GB and take their first win at the European Youth Ultimate Championships here in Italy.
What a deserved win from Germany. They played so well. They started off, and that is the margin. They are leading by now at the end of this game as well. That was all it took for them. The better start in the beginning of it, but GB put up such a good fight. They were so intense at times, getting all the grinder points, but Germany composed and clear offense.
Too much of a slow start from GB. They couldn't quite recover from that 3-0 game. We're going to have a delay of the next round for 10 minutes, so the quarterfinal on show pitch number 3 will start at 6:10 local time. But what a game that was. GB in the second half, 4 breaks to the 2 of the Germans, but that 6 break deficit just could not be quite surmounted. I get massive Kate Gibson vibes off of Charlotte Wolf, really taking control of the game, doing everything on defense for GB. And massive scenes as well from Naomi Bond, an even more impressive stat line, 2 goals, 2 assists and 3 breaks to Wolf's 4 breaks, 4 blocks, and 4 goals. So we're going to get a sideline interview from one of the coaches of Germany, because of course their athletes are all far too busy. Just celebrating a well-deserved, at long last, a win for the German women here in Padova at the European Youth Ultimate Championships. So, an interview here with Anja Folberg, who, it's really lovely to see you, Anja. Having had the pleasure of playing with you myself in years past, but congratulations, that was quite the performance. You said you wanted to start from the beginning, and the beginning of that match really said it all, a 3-0 deficit. For you as a coach, what are you most proud of your team right now?
I'm so proud that we always kept our heads up. It was a tough week so far. We had very close games, but never could take a win. So it's so nice to see that they never gave up. They always kept their heads up, and now we did it. I'm so happy for them.
Well, absolutely. There'll be celebrations this evening. Certainly some ice cream action from what you told us before the game. At what moment do you think the tide really turned? I think probably when we went to those 2 breaks at the end of the first half. But when GB started to make the breaks back, what was the thing you were telling your players in the huddles? Because every time GB broke, you took a timeout.
Yeah, we were always telling them the game is 0-0. We start from the beginning and just do it like we did it in the beginning. And I'm so proud that we always came back. I was a little afraid. GB, they really found their game in the middle of the game, And we had that experience against Austria, and I'm so happy that we didn't lose our nerves and just, yeah, fought for it. I think it was so hot. It was also tired legs on the 5th day. Yeah.
Indeed, although you did have the break this morning, of course. Unfortunate to end up in the 7th spot in the pool stages in the early bit of the tournament, but of course you did have that extra bit of rest. In terms of kind of the game management, was there any kind of line calling that was a bit tactical, maybe some power lines to get those breaks at the end of the first half?
Yeah, we tried to get power lines in the offense in the end, because I think our system with the hose stack, when we have 2 tired legs on the line, it's hard to get through, and also GB matched us really well there. So, and also we had 1 more injury, so we had to kind of shuffle around a little bit, but yeah, I think, yeah, it was great. I'm still.
Well, of course, the wonderful thing is that you had your open team alongside as well, giving that extra bit of sideline support. They're now going to be playing in their next game, so I'm sure your players will now be able to bring their energy and that vibe. What's it been like now, having all of the athletes together for Team D?
It was so great, because last year, I already told you before the game, we had to separate them due to Corona, and now they really get to know each other. They're going to meet each other again in their whole Frisbee career, so it's nice to see them. We will try to support the open team for the beginning, then we have to leave because we have the early game in the morning. Yeah, get some food and rest, but we will definitely be there on the live stream, and yeah, just
Well, we'll have you in the live chat as well, won't we? But the highlights of this game will run in front of us. It's been a real pleasure to see the German women get their first victory here at the European Youth Ultimate Championships. Do you have any last messages for your fans back at home?
I'm so happy. We know that our fans are watching, and I think it gives the girl a really good feeling to know that we have so much support, and yeah, that so many people want us to be winning. Still, congratulations to the GB team. They really came back. I was afraid at some point of the game, and I'm happy that it was tight again and that everyone had to fight.
Absolutely. Well, is what makes the compelling sport. Never being sure of the win, always having to fight to the very last drop. And I think your team definitely proved that. So thank you so much for your interview, Anya. Thank you for your time, and go enjoy celebrating your first victory here.
Thank you.
What a game that was in the end. Really beautiful stuff from the German women, holding it out and getting their first victory here at the tournament. What are your final closing thoughts, Christina?
It was an impressive show of ultimate from both sides. I think that junior division grew last year. And overall, I think that was just impressive stuff by the Germans. Well-deserved win and good fight from GB. And that's all I can say.
Indeed, that game had a little bit of everything, some thrills, some spills, and some high-octane, high-quality ultimate. For myself, Hannah Pendlebury, for Christina Obermeier, for all of our tireless ULTI.TV crew. Thank you so much for joining us. Do consider liking, subscribing, patronising us for future tournaments. But coming up next on our live streams, it's more German action over in the Open Division. Germany versus Austria, the showdown in quarter-finals. Be sure not to miss it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, Ultimate.
ULTI.TV.